as though we might have audio now.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Do you want me to Julie, I'll test mine. And I can exchange with John. Test, test, test.
Yeah, that's coming through now. It's coming through on the software here. I'm just going to check.
Your worship, say something again.
Testing, testing.
Because yours, Dave's, because he's the one that's going to speak.
It doesn't amplify.
Test, test, test.
And that's on, is the blue light on there? Yeah.
Blue light's on, yeah.
The view is not sensitive.
Yeah. I think we'll extend your time, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time. Yeah. The extent you guys will go to not to hear from me. Yeah. Pretty impressive.
We're good? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get public input, and I'll just, public is permitted to provide comments to council on any item shown on the meeting agenda. A 2-minute time limit applies to speaker. Welcome. If you could please state your name and address.
David Gregory, 9 Alder Way. I'm here to speak to the bike park proposal that you've got the information on today.
The survey, yeah.
The survey. Yeah, a couple of things about the survey. We back right on to the proposed bike park. One thing you'll note in the survey, there's 18 strongly for in the outside, the specific area there. My son's a member of TORCA, and he's advised me that at least 15 of those 18 have come from a blast that they have done. So make sure you're taking that into consideration, because that's going to strongly change that.
Yep.
One thing I really wanted to do is thank Stuart, who started the initiative of this. So standing up and speaking against something when staff members taking that kind of initiative to get it going, I feel badly about. I think the survey portrays it quite well, is that that park's been used by the kids over the years. They play in it, use their imagination. There's Nerf gun fights, whole birthday parties, whole bunch of different things in there. And it'd be a real shame to take that imaginative play area away from them. A good example is my son, who started building little trails in there, went on to build bigger trails, and now is a director of TORCA, and they're managing all the trail systems in here. But if he had not made that initial, then that would have never. I imagine that's my 2 minutes.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will be discussing that. It's 11A on the agenda. So, okay. Any other public input?
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. I'm Mike Barnes. I live at 38 Birchwind. So I live sort of diagonally opposite to where this proposed bike park is going to be put in. I would oppose that for similar reasons to the previous speaker. I have 4 children who have also grown up through that area and have enjoyed, playing freestyle, if you like, in that area. When we discussed this at the committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, I felt sort of somewhat assured by the councillor that if people in the street didn't want this, then this wouldn't go ahead. And I'm hoping that that will be held to. If the survey has come back with positive views for this bike park, then I would propose that they go somewhere else. There are other places in Anmore that I feel would be able to put it locally here, for example, near Spirit Park. There's lots of places we could put this. So I would oppose that. My other concern is if this was to go ahead, it would be it could be seen as a thin end of the wedge. So today we get a few little, sprinklings of a trail put in there, and then a bench, and then another year goes by, then gets some more things put in there, and it gets registered as a play park area, which is something that we would also oppose. So that's another concern. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi, good evening. My name's Tanya Marshall. I live at 10 Alder Way, and my house backs directly onto Birchwind Park. We just recently moved in there a couple of years ago, and I've noticed a lot of the local residents just walking through the park. I've seen children walking through there collecting leaves and kids playing tag and even taking their bikes through there already. So we love that little park. What I am afraid of, well, certainly as a bike park, that it would create a lot of traffic, excess noise. It's a lovely quiet area right now. And even as just dedicated some trails, I feel like it could take away from other people using that just for other recreational opportunities. So I feel right now, just living there, and I'm seeing people using it and loving it just the way it is. So I hope that you'll just leave it as we enjoy it. So thank you.
Good, thank you.
Hello there, Chloe Heisler from 28 Birchwind. Basically, I'm here tonight because several years back, I actually was before you again, fighting to keep this space as a green space, as it was going to be turned into just bulldozed over and turned into another house. So now I thought it was very important for me to come back again tonight just to reiterate how important it is that it does stay this way, just so kids can use their imagination to, as they please. I've built forts in there myself when I was younger. I've bike ridden in there, and now as I'm older, I've walked dogs in there, especially dogs that are not as athletic. Because some people have elder dogs. I know that a dog that I was watching is a bit elderly, and he can't do as much, but yet he still gets to go in the forest, which he likes. And the traffic, we have speed bumps that are already been in place. So adding more traffic, where are they going to park, right? So that would be taking away from residents parking if they decide to block off points of access into our houses, or it's already an issue as it is for parking for residents. If we add a source for people to come in, or reason to come in, other than, wrong turn, then where are they going to park? And the noise, people are working from home a lot now, especially with COVID. I know that I was doing studies from home and online and studying from home and doing my homework. So it's a lot harder with a lot of extra noise. I know because a neighbor has had construction work on their house. So having more kids screaming in the neighborhood in that one general area will make it a lot louder for all of us, and it's going to be hard to police a good turn-off time. And when, okay, you have to be quiet, go home. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other public comments?
Hello everyone, my name is Jacinta. I'm from 34 Birchwind, so I'm directly across from the bike park. And I first heard about this in the email that was sent out, which I was really glad I heard about that. But I knew a lot of our neighbors didn't hear about that, and I actually just read in the report in the survey that supposedly we were all mailed, direct mailed, and I only heard just one person in that group over there that was direct mailed, and I was, as someone as living across the street, I wasn't. So I actually took the initiative to make let everyone know about this, because I feel like we had to be asked first before all of Anmore was asked, and Torca, who is not even in this area at all. So I ended up actually having to print flyers myself and then walk door to door to try to get all my neighbors to have an opinion or give feedback to this. So yeah, I have a 3-year-old, and just the other day we were just walking in there. We go in there all the time, and I saw that these children, they made a pretend campfire. It was so cute. And then my son goes upstairs, he's making a fire, and he gets me to start making a fire with him too. It's the imagination would be just totally lost and only to bikers there. And then I just feel like it could draw not only children, but then teenagers. And then it just would really ruin this quiet neighborhood that we just love so much. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And sorry, I also created a petition. I know that last time you guys, last council meeting, it was said the petition would not be accepted, but I do have one and it's all from people that live in the area. So if you wanted to see that, and 34 people have signed it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public input?
Jordan Birch, 223295 Sunnyside. Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off, thank you for hosting Light the Spirit Park. It's tons of fun. My kids, 1 and 4, love the hot chocolate and the extra whipped cream. They were up till midnight. Wrestling in the Spirit Park field with a bunch of other kids. It was awesome.
You're welcome.
Just want to say a few words about the housing needs assessment report that's in the new business section. Read the report, kind of speaking from a few hats. One, obviously as a resident, but secondly, as a parent with 2 young children. I'm enjoying raising my kids in the community. Some of you know that I'm very actively involved. But the reality is I'm going to get old and they're going to grow up. And I'm a bit concerned about the housing diversity options that were presently available to us and eventually the next generation. So obviously the decisions we make now are going to affect the situation for the kids, and not only that are going to access potential bike parks and other amenities in the area, but for our sort of forever situation here in Anmore, why we moved here, is to age in place and obviously give our kids lots of opportunities as well. So specifically the report highlights lack of housing diversity, lack of affordable housing and other meaningful types of housing for people that make special contributions to the community. I think we need to really consider this, take a look at all the options, and really, I'm always asking myself as a dad, you know, every day, what legacy am I leaving for my kids? As a community, what legacy are we leaving for the next generation? Because really, it's not really about us, it's about them. We all know that the province has put a lot of emphasis on affordable housing and diversity. It's all over the news. We need to consider what we're doing. We can't just sit on the sidelines and say, not in my backyard. We have to participate. It's frankly just our responsibility. So I'm just spreading that message that let's be part of the solution and continue the dialogue. So thank you.
Thank you. Good. Please.
Hi, Jennifer Anderson, 42 Birchwind. And just quickly to reiterate that I agree with what my neighbors have said about the bike park. We've been here since 2006 and raised our 4 kids in the bike park. Chloe was part of the original crew with the forts in there and the birthday parties. So while I recognize the intention came from a good place, I guess I would like council to know that it is not an underutilized park space. It's not just sitting there overgrown. It is used actively. And the concept of aging in place is interesting here because we do have seniors that live in our neighborhood. We have seniors who are walking dogs who, if you're familiar with the path up towards Elementary Road, is not accessible to them. So currently this would be the only bit of green space that they could walk their dogs through. Some have canes, some have little grandchildren with them. So to pigeonhole it as a bike park, I think would be a detriment to our little community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody Summers Cook, 1660 East Road. As I am not affected by the bike trail, I did see the survey and I would have signed it. I think with everything going on in the village and the developing, we're going to be losing a lot of our green space. And I think what the residents are saying about it bringing more traffic, more people, taking away from the kids while mine is grown, I totally am in support of keeping it green space and not bike trails.
Any other public comments before we move on? Okay, we'll move on. We don't have any delegations. Minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 16th, 2021, and the minutes of the special council meeting held on November 23rd, 2021. The recommendation would read,
That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 16th, 2021, and the minutes of the special council meeting held on November 23rd, 2021 be adopted as circulated.
someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from any of those minutes? Nope. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Any council member who wishes to remove an item for further discussion may do so at this time. Otherwise, we have a recommendation that the consent agenda be adopted. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Okay. We now move on to legislative reports. 9A, Anmore 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw. Ms. Elrick.
Thank you. This was before council at the November 16th regular council meeting for first three readings. So the recommendation this evening is that council adopt the Anmore 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw 654, 2021.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion on fourth reading? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Okay, we're now on to 11A, new business, Birchwine Bike Park Community Survey. This was a community engagement survey report dated November 25th, 2021 from Mickelson Consulting. It's attached. I'll refer to Ms. Elrick.
Thank you. So in response to the bike park proposal that was brought forward to the Parks and Rec Committee and then to council, a community survey was undertaken. And I do have Ms. Michelson here today to discuss the community survey results and answer any questions related to that, if council has any questions.
Any questions at all? Or Councillor Trowbridge is chair of the parks. Would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, I think I'm blue. It's good. Yeah, I mean, just a little background for those folks that aren't aware or maybe didn't come to I'm still grateful for the people that came to the Parks Committee meetings. First time we had anyone actually care, take an interest. Yeah, we were quite surprised because we thought there was a staff member, Stu, who was doing some work cleaning up some stuff, an old tree house and stuff, and making things safe in there. And he came up with this idea that he would rent a bobcat and make some trails through there and make it nice. And we all thought, well, what a great idea. We weren't thinking of anything as grandiose as a bike park that would attract people from other communities or parking or anything like that. But anyway, it became whatever it became. I assured, someone mentioned it here, but I assured the folks in the room that, we'd be looking at the neighborhood more than the folks in the greater area because they're most affected and they're immediately involved, and we've done that. And I also stated something like this, I'm not verbatim, that they're in control. And if they don't want it, we're not going to do it. So I don't want to be preemptive, but we're not going to do it. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, you go ahead. Go ahead, Therese.
Okay.
So yes, as was noted, from the start, the intent was to make sure that we provide an opportunity specifically targeting those who live in the neighborhood who would be most affected by it and potentially most use it. And so that's why there was the opportunity to provide the postal code. And you'll see in the results that, overall, the feedback from the respondents was that they don't want to see one, but even more so with emphasis face the support of people going, yes, this is great. We've also wanted to get some feedback from what would it look like. So that's why there's examples in there. And we fully understood that if people were against it, they were going to say, yeah, none of this is important. And so we took that into account when we looked at the results. What is helpful, though, is that there were comments similarly to what we heard here, that maybe there is an opportunity in the future for a bike park, just not here. And we do have some good feedback from those who support the idea of a bike park. Similarly to what was proposed, most people also felt like we said in the information, that it's mostly, it's a for local people. It's beginner and intermediate. It's a safe place to ride. It's not a big, bike park. But we did get some who, in those who supported the idea of a bike park, saying that they thought we needed to look at advanced trails as well in future. But that was just kind of one theme from those who specifically were very interested. So overall, the remarks were very consistent, particularly with that 73% plus from the immediate neighborhood who do not support it, and it was strongly opposed.
Good. I just want to give a bit of history on this as well. I guess it was about 10 years ago. I was chair of the Parks Department, and we got called out by the residents then, because the houses, a lot of the new houses that were surrounding, I know Don Butt's house, for example, had just finished being built, and there was a ton of garbage that got dumped into this park, and we came out as the Cubs and the Scouts and cleaned it up, and we probably brought out about 2 dump trucks full of building refuge, mattresses and that, and we cleaned up. And at that point, we sort of started asking people, what would they like to see in this park? And as Ms. Sumner said, this was never about losing a green space. This is always just about what level of park do we want to create here. And I think it was about 10 years ago, we put that and canvassed the neighborhoods and everybody who was helping out. And we spent a good day. It was tough work. And really what everybody says, they wanted a very organic park, something that a lot of creativeness and playtime. They didn't want anything too nice in anything. Yeah, too formal, and that. So I was kind of shocked when this actually did come back. And it's and Stu, greatest intentions whatsoever, but doesn't know the history of the park and that. So I thought it was good to put it out to the residents to see if that. If things have changed, but it certainly seems, and I'm certainly appreciative of the park. We spent a whole day cleaning it up, and I'm glad that it's still being used extensively. I think it's a great thing. I know also several years ago it was talked about that could be a piece of property that the village could sell possibly, and we had no interest in doing that either. So anyway, I really want to thank all of you for coming out. I think it's a great little park that the kids, and it's a safe park because it is surrounded by housing in the fact, so it's not like you could, with a creek or anything like that. So I tell you, I think it brings a lot of creativity to play for kids, and I'm really, it's one of the things that we need to hold on to. So I do know that regarding a bike pack, and we will reach out to Torque at some point in the future, as we have talked about putting some sort of a pump track in regards to this property right next to us here, which may be a little bit more visible, that would give kids, so that we can kind of keep an eye on things as well. So anyway, that's kind of the history on it, but I really appreciate the, Stu showing the initiative and the Parks Department, consulting.
Yeah, I just want to put a finer point on that. I don't want to discourage staff members from coming forward with their own initiatives on their own time in the evening to try and do something good for the community. This one misfired. It wasn't on target. That's fine, but I want to make sure that you talk to Stu and make sure he understands that it was really appreciated. And he was the only one that came to the Parks Committee and told these people. So I'm going to announce a future airport right on that street, and hopefully people will come to the meeting again.
Anyway, so, Councillor Wevering.
Yeah, just to give a bit more history, to what you just said, Mayor McEwen, about the potential of it being developed. I remember that came out in a report prepared by a former councillor, and it was commendable. He did a lot of work in that report, and it really identified that we have a lot of land in this village that's people think is park, but it's land. And that was an option to sell that property. So we organized in the neighborhood and got a whole bunch of people to come out to a meeting and spoke against it, and I think we were very much appreciated. And when we talked about it after, that's sort of what we decided, that you know, the village said, well, what do you want us to do with the park? Do you want us to put some benches in? Do you want a playground? And we just said, no, we just like a safe green space for our kids to play in. Now, there was a book out at the time called Last Child in the Woods, which really talked about the benefits of kids just playing in a little nature park. And the fact that we had a safe nature park surrounded by houses was ideal. And we saved the village a lot of money too, so. So I'm glad to hear that my neighbors still feel the same way, so I wouldn't be supporting it.
Good. Well, any other comments or, yeah, Councillor Leidler?
Was there any consideration given to a different area for a bike path?
Not specifically for a bike park. The Parks Committee's been working on trail connectivity primarily. So we've spent most of our time doing that. With any future CD developments or anything like that, of course, we're going to look for park. We get property dedication, we can make those parks. So, you know, we'll take a look at that. I think there is some value in the future in the right location, and this wasn't it.
Yeah. Good. Well, there's no resolution, so I think,
Council may wish to just simply receive the summary report.
okay, move to receive with no action. Move receipt, move seconded. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and it's going to retain a organic park. You're not staying for the whole meeting? Hey, you can't leave. Lock the door.
The airport's just around.
Don't take it personally. Okay, we're on to 11B, the Housing Needs Assessment Report. Report dated December 1st, 2021 from Ms. Halliwell. It's attached.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. I'll just give a brief overview and won't take too much of Mr. White's thunder over there. The Housing Needs Report has been before Council previously in terms of a requirement by the province for us to do so by April of 2022. Grants were made available through the UBCM, and the village was successful thanks to Richard White's group in obtaining a $15,000 grant to undertake the work. And he was direct awarded the work back in March of this year. So since then, he's been working to collate all the information, which he'll go through in greater detail. Just wanted to highlight a couple of really important points. There's a complete list of the province's requirements as it relates to the housing needs assessment, and that I've included in the report, a link to that, but anybody could just Google Housing Needs Report, Government of BC, and they would go to their page. And so those requirements are mandated. One of those requirements is that the report has to be renewed every 5 years with updated information, and also that any future updates or amendments to the village's OCP or our regional context statement, thereby the regional growth strategy, must consider the results of the housing needs report. So obviously with what we've been talking about here in the village, that becomes an important point to consider as well. But for now, I'm going to jump over and do the technology thing, and I'll turn it over to Mr. White to run through a presentation here in just a second.
So I'll just, I can start without the slides. We'll have some slides to show. I'm going to be blocking some people's views, so I'm not sure what's best. Maybe if you wanted to come over here. It's pretty hard for me to be anywhere other than that spot. Thank you. You've got, I was just checking that. I think you've got the material that I'm going to be presenting tonight. Karen can maybe, yeah, no, it's in here. It's, maybe you can tell me which attachment it is. It's
107.
Yeah. 154, exactly. So that's the slide show. So just to preface the presentation, and as the CAO has told council in part, the province wants to have each community, and it's smaller than the village of Anmore, it's any community over 100 people have been asked to produce. This doesn't affect First Nations, by the way. They can choose to participate, but they don't, they're not obliged to. But all municipalities and communities, electoral areas, for instance, as small as 100 people, are meant to get together and produce a housing needs report. This work, council has in their package, and probably on the internet, there is material that was produced by Metro Vancouver. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm not used to speaking,
You can take
projecting through a mask.
Are
but-
we allowed to, you can take us?
if you're just up at the podium.
Yeah.
Okay,
Apologies, but,
thanks.
technology is not my friend tonight, and we're having difficulty running both. No, it's, the screen is going black when I plug it in.
It was up.
The presentation. is
Yeah,
up.
I saw the picture there for a minute, yeah.
Maybe I'll carry on?
Sure,
Yeah.
please.
So the province wants these done, and they're going to be asking municipalities and other agencies to redo them every 5 years. And really what the province has discovered, and it's been evident for many years, is BC is becoming a very expensive place to live, not just for owners, but for renters as well. The province wants to understand what the particular needs are in various communities. Catherine, by the way, my daughter is here. She's part of the firm. She and another fellow named Steve Pomeroy, who's based in Ottawa, did most of the analytical work that was required to have this document prepared. But we were also assisted by Metro Vancouver, which is they have a planning department in Metro Vancouver, the regional plan. Members of council, the public are aware of that, but they also have a housing branch. They do housing needs assessments on behalf of the region, and they've sent that out over the years to municipalities as well. When the time came for each municipality, and in the case of Metro Vancouver, there's electoral area A as well, it was decided that each municipality would produce their own documentation. UBCM, through the province through UBCM, the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, has provided a grant that is based on the population. The minimum is $15,000, but a place like Port Moody might get $35,000, City of Vancouver might get more, to produce a report that deals with their whole community. And in the council's package, there's a document, I think it's a Schedule B to the report, that is the required document that the municipalities obliged to send to the province. It has to be in by next April. We think we've got the document prepared for you for tonight. There's a resolution the council will have to prepare it to produce, to send it forward to the province. UVCM and Metro Vancouver would also benefit from having it. But it's on the website already, I think, so anybody can get it, which is what the province intended. But to follow up with that, and looks like we're ready. Are we, Julie? Okay. So now do you have to advance the slides from there? That's why you're still there. Sorry about that. Okay. So I was kind of, as we say in hockey, ragging the puck. But now we can get on with the slide show. So most of this has been covered already. I think we can go on to the next slide. So what we have a situation is this is a housing needs report, and there's two elements to housing needs. There's housing requirements, which is what the demand is in the marketplace for more housing, and most people want as much housing as they can get, but housing need is a more subtle kind of subset. This is what would suit a family. People might want a fifth bedroom, but there's only two people in the house, so they don't need it. And so housing need is more tightly defined. And there's elements to housing need which we'll get into as we move along. If you could hit the next slide, thanks. So just one of the things we did as part of this work, Metro did most of this work, is looked at how this marketplace, the village of Anmore, is distinct from other places. And by the way, I think not mentioned yet, is we did three at once, the three villages, which is what we're calling Anmore, Lions Bay and Belcarra now. You're distinct amongst your peers as municipalities throughout the region. There's 3 villages in Metro Vancouver. We suggested we do the work for each village together. We do work for Belcarra at the present time. Lions Bay we've never worked for before, but they, the 3 CAOs got together and agreed it would be more efficient to do all 3 at once. It also allowed us to do some direct comparisons, which maybe, what you will find is they're not really often comparable. They're quite different communities, even though they're the smallest parts of Metro Vancouver. I should put away my things, shouldn't I? Using it as a presentation device. This is 2016 data. So in 2016, a lot of the working adults in the municipality left the village for work. That's understandable. There's not much of an economic base here, but that's distinctly different than pretty well anywhere else, other than the other 2 villages, which have that same characteristic. 75% of the homes in Anmore are detached. 91% are owner-occupied. Those are both very much higher than other places. So 30% of single-family dwellings is only 30% in Metro, 70% are multiple family, and only 64% of residents in Metro own their own home or have a mortgage for the home they own. There's a very small number of multiple family dwellings. These are all obvious things, but something that jogged my mind is 11% are movable dwellings, which is distinctly different than most places in the region as well. Not many trailers left in the region. Anmore also, everybody knows this, a very high median household incomes. And what it is maybe this is news, is that it's twice as high. Your average household income is twice as high as the average in Metro. And just as the people were speaking earlier, 4 kids. I was thinking about, the household sizes, right? 3.2 persons per household, which doesn't sound maybe too much, but every household comes with 1 person, right? So you're starting at 1, and you move up from there. A couple, 2, and then households with 1 or 2 people sort of bring that average down. So family households are typically larger, but Anmore has many more than most places, and we'll see that on a graph later. If you could hit the next slide. I think this might be it. Yeah, the households with 2 or less people in Belcarra, it's 70%. In Anmore, it's 37%. So, 40% of what the 40% less in Anmore, and Lions Bay is in the middle. And Metro is sort of the average across the region. 60% of households have 2 or less people. So it's a lot of small households throughout the region. 49% of dwellings in the region have 2 or less bedrooms, which suits those smaller households. But Anmore, it's only 12%. So there's a propensity of large houses here, larger, and we'll see this in the later data. Julie, please carry on. This is 2016 values, very high household prices. We can go to the next one. Everybody knows these things. But median household income by tenure. This is relevant because high incomes, that's the purple, going on twice as high as Metro in general. But renters even in Anmore have very high incomes. In Metro, it's 48%. In Anmore, it's 100,000. 48,000 in Metro. Sorry, I got the max. Sorry, in Metro, it's 48,000. In Anmore, it's twice as high, over 100,000. So the next slide, though, I think, will show that it's great to have wealth, fairly affluent renters, but to buy a house in Belcarra and to buy one in Lions Bay or Anmore is virtually beyond the range of even the average renter in Anmore. If I can see it from here, it's roughly, you can afford a house of, this is in 2016, of $600,000, but the average house was more than twice that. So renters moving into ownership in Anmore are very, very difficult to do because housing prices are so high. And it gets to a point made by one of the speakers earlier, is that I think ideally you provide for all your residents, but the type of housing that's available in Anmore is very difficult for many people to aspire to in the current marketplace, even the marketplace 5 years ago. Thanks, carry on. Yeah. So core housing need is another element to this. This is the and this is not such an issue in very many places, but I think it probably affects the northern end of the municipality to a certain extent. The adequacy of housing, suitability of housing, these are not too prevalent. Physical condition housing is pretty good. The suitability of housing is there's not very much overcrowding. This is a concern in many places in Canada, but it's not an issue in Anmore. And the affordability factors, a lot of people in Anmore pay more than 30% of their gross income for housing. Overall, though, in Anmore, only 5.3% of households are in core need, which is less than a third of that in Metro Vancouver as a whole. So Anmore is very well. It's the financial sustainability. First, so financial sustainability starts with the household and it moves up to the municipality. So, not that I'm suggesting that Anmore should raise taxes, but people here can pay taxes, which people struggle with that in many other parts of this region. So who is core housing need in this municipality? Well, roughly 1 in 3 lone parent households are in need. The core need, not necessarily, but they could use some help in living here. One of the things that we found throughout the studies we've done them in the North Okanagan, 20-odd places, and it's typically the second income makes a big difference, is what it boils down to. And when you become a lone parent, you've also got the responsibilities of raising family. So the ages that affected most by this, 45 to 65 lone parent families, are the ones that have the most serious needs. Julie? Thanks. So we looked at the 3 villages, compared them, and you'll see this in your attachments. But Anmore is the largest and fastest growing. As a matter of fact, the other 2 are hardly growing at all. Belcarra lost population. Some will remember that in the last census. Between 2006, last census period, and 10 years before that, population increased by 425 people, which is a fairly significant increase. The rate of increase in Anmore is actually pretty healthy compared to all the other municipalities in the region, because you're starting from a fairly small base. We didn't do that comparison, but there's a lot of growth that's happening in Anmore, and it's evident in all the new houses that are nearby. So 15 households roughly added per year in the 2006 to 2016 time period. And right now we've been looking at it much more recently. It's roughly the same. The rate of household formulation through looking at new homes is 14 per year. And that's a trend that continues. It might even be picking up a little bit in the recent years. So Metro then takes those trends and predicts what's going to happen over the next, so it's the next 5 or 6 years, but it's based on the 2016 census, so we're halfway through that period. And they're thinking that by the 2026 census, there'll be an extra 570 people living in Anmore, which is 175 households based on the current household size. And that's a slight increase in annual new construction in the next 5 or 6 years. Estimating future population, household requirements based on household size and composition. So here, what we're looking at is not so much what's being built, but what's being needed. And what we're finding through the data is that the types of housing that would be suiting the people that maybe are on the edge of being able to afford to live in Anmore are smaller. Singles could get by with 1.5, maybe a coach house or an in-law suite, 1.5 bedrooms, a smaller second room. A couple with no children, lone parents, non-families, with 2+ people living in it, two bed small household townhouse, and couples with kids. That's what we're well suited for, and this is evident by the people that turned up tonight and the interest in building bicycle trail parks in the first place, right? It's a young person's community. And so this might be hard to see from any distance, but I think the council has and this is on your, if you got your laptop, it's on the computer. So the data suggests, this is not what's going to happen in Anmore, but the data suggests you should be allowing more small units to be built here, because that's what people will age into, and that's what will be affordable to people that want to rent in this community, and that's what maybe younger people that want to stay here that are growing growing out of their family's household, or maybe the family's encouraging them to leave. Not looking at you, Catherine, but she, by the way, has left some time ago. But the fact of the matter is that those people that are presently members of your community over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years will probably not be able to remain here. And so that, it's an issue that's, from a planning perspective, you might want to look at. Thanks, Julie. So we've talked about this for the most part. Carry on. Thanks. So this is the last slide. Just a summary, and there's lots more data. We wanted to keep it simple and straightforward quickly, but 17 homes per year next 10 years. And we've observed that there's capacity for more service lots in this municipality, a lot less capacity in the other two villages. Some mismatch between the form of existing homes and the population characteristics already. The housing tends to be oversupply the people that live in them. There's a good rationale for building smaller dwelling types, and council's made choices in that regard in the last number of years. Council has allowed secondary suites over the last number of years, provide for coach houses and so on. So that type of work will help provide for a different type of resident, one that might rent, one that may not want a multi-level house anymore. And that's the same point. The next point down, I've just covered it. So that is it. And I'm here to answer questions. Catherine's here to back me up when I can't.
Good, well, thank you. Thank you again, Mr. White. I'll open up for council. Any questions?
Mr. White.
Councillor Laidler.
Sorry, Mr. White. There was a lot of mention here of the Greater Vancouver area requesting this. Is it a request, or is it going to be a demand down the road that they insist this happens?
It'll be hard for the province to insist on anything. This is based on, not on the work we did, but just based on my perspective from the other work I do, is that municipalities have a lot of autonomy, but what the province might do is cajole municipalities into providing more housing. When I first started my career, there was something called a municipal incentive grant that enabled municipalities, were they to provide opportunities for houses with front doors out to the yard, so townhouses rather than apartments, which were proliferating in the 70s and early 80s. They wanted more ground-oriented, family-oriented townhouse-type housing. So they started giving $1,500 grants for municipalities that provided that type of housing through zoning. And that was a popular thing for a number of years. And in my municipality at the time, City of North Vancouver, benefited from that. We put in a lot of townhouses. Those townhouses are still very heavily family-oriented, so it turned out to be a very good program by the province. I think that's probably more likely what would happen. The province, and probably every politician, I'm looking at 5 of them here, hear about affordability issues all the time. And so being responsive to that, there's a tendency amongst governments to kind of point at other people rather than themselves. And I think the province is saying, well, let's see if we can work on it together, but let's find out what we need first. And that's what this is a housing needs report. So I think that's, I think something's coming, but I don't think it'll be demanding. I think it'll be more, like I say, an offer to municipalities to do better. Yeah.
Except what happened in Port Moody, where they stepped in on the Woodland site and demanded that they double the capacity.
Well, the Woodland site was provincial property too, right? So that makes it a bit, yeah.
Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I was just looking earlier today on the population age group thing, and I was trying to draw some conclusions. And I understand that it's not, something that is sort of a viable thing that one should draw any kind of solid conclusions from. But I found it really interesting how we over-index against Metro and BC in the age group of 45 to 64, and then we drastically under-index in 65 to 84. Now, we've had some sort of parochial notions that the properties here are inherently large and take some upkeep, and that you know, you sort of hit this 65 years old, getting close to retirement, and maybe it's not as much fun anymore. For some people, it's for the rest of their lives, and for others, like my brother, for example, he just, time to go and move out. And then when you take the 25 to 44 and combine it with the 45 to 64, our indexing is almost exactly like the other marketplaces, roughly 56% in that whole strata. But again, pitched at the top.
Yeah, I can't remember all the stuff you just talking about. So show me the page too. Just give me the page number.
Sure, yeah, on 132.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, of the agenda package. So I'm not, Richard, I'm not looking to pin you down on any kind
No.
of.
It felt like that to me just now.
No. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if there's any conclusion to be drawn, or just, hey, that's interesting, and that's what it is.
Well, one of the things that happens, right, if in a relatively new municipality, which Anmore is, in a sense of the households, the buildings, is that people tend to move into their dream house and then they stay there, right, for as long as they possibly can. A lot of people here have built their own house, or they've bought a house sort of just a custom house and so on. So I think that might be part of it, is that age group is just kind of getting past that 44-year, you know, you probably not many people between 25 and 30 are buying those types of houses, people a bit older. So I think that's probably what's in the statistic. It's a very small, like comparing Anmore to Metro is very difficult, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I think what stands out more is the under-exit indexing of the 65 to 84.
Yeah, so that, once again, I think, you know, there's no multiple family housing, or very little here. So that's not a market they can enter locally. And seniors, that is, older seniors. And then just the multi-level nature of most housing in all three municipalities we looked at is, I think, a big factor too. It's nice to get on a single level if you're packing, you know, tough to pack the groceries upstairs, 3 floors and stuff. It's or even the vacuum cleaner, you know. Take your pick. You know.
That answers my question, thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that really jumped out at me, Richard, was the fact of using 2016 data.
Yeah.
And we're approaching 2022, and I will tell you, the numbers that we're seeing in property values here are
far higher, yeah.
Far higher than this, and relative to neighboring communities. And I just, you know, I am constantly reminded through different, you know, through our mayor's committee and that, about this housing crisis that we're experiencing and that. So it is interesting, and you've really outlined some of the shortfalls that Anmore is really facing.
So one of the things that we'll be doing is giving comments back to the province. And for instance, not that you're going to be looking forward to it, but it might be better to do another one of these 2 years from now, because then you'll have the 2021 census material. They'll all be out before the end of next year, 22. So that'd be the ideal time to do it, when you've got the freshest data, right? So, you know, that's what the province should have, but they want it for whatever reason. It's probably somebody's idea right after the last census, you know, or right after the 2016 census, but it took that long to work it through the provincial system. So they might change the years, because I agree with you, there's no sense in doing it 5 years into the census period, because you basically already just finished out your census form, and you have to do your housing needs analysis based on 5-year-old data, right? Yeah.
And I've also heard that they may want to tie in regional as well, so that the Tri-Cities would be as one, rather than these individual, you know, because the data for like an Anmore or Beaucaire isn't really relevant to the region.
So what's going to happen for sure is Metro will combine it all as a regional study. But once again, I think the villages will tend to lose out, because the focus tends to go towards the places that are growing, you know, where the population is growing 10 or 15,000 people per year rather than a few hundred, or, you know, couple dozen. Yeah. So.
Do you have any? Councilor Weber?
I guess not a lot surprised me in the report. I think it demonstrates what I've always talked about. I mean, 25 years ago when I moved to Anmore, anybody could afford to buy here. There was something for everybody, and there isn't anymore, and I think this report just proves that. I mean, I have enough of a social conscience, and I've always said, I think we have to create a community that you can grow up here, you could rent a place here, you could maybe buy your first place here, and you could retire here. I still think, I stand by those values. I'm not saying I have the answers to how to do it. If there's a big development down there that is going to address it, I don't know. But I do think it needs to be addressed, and I think anybody on council, that's our responsibility to think about and consider.
This will help your next OCP for sure, right? It'll help with this data, and it's comparable data with other places. Yeah, regional data.
We also see, you know, through our volunteer fire department, the challenges that Belcarra is facing. They don't have growth. You know, as you say, they're actually shrinking, and they're becoming an older demographic, less volunteers to be able to supply, you know, fire services in the region. So that's going to have twofold effect, and that'll be either number one, insurance ratings, or number two, a paid fire thing. Because, you know, as it stands right now, you know, speaking with the fire chief, you know, he's concerned about that, because we actually have Belcarra fire people that are actually living in Anmore right now in Crystal Creek in regards to be able to facilitate. So it is a challenge. So,
And there's, and talking about aging as well, there's lots of services that older folks would like to have close at hand.
yeah.
You know, and you can see it in West Vancouver, you know, the bus goes up the hill into British properties full of people at 7:30 in the morning, and those same people come down in the evening. They're going far away from West Vancouver. 75% of the people that work in West Vancouver live someplace else. So there's just not many people working at it. So it's impossible to have that statistic for Anmore. But eventually, Anmore will want to have more of those services provided locally, I think, as much as possible. Then you're going to want to have people working close to the services that are provided to the community, right?
Well, you know, in West Van, I know a bunch of teachers. Because they've been around so long, you couldn't get a new teacher that would want to work in West Vancouver. It's all becoming then a commute to get in and out. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, thank you very much.
Okay.
So there's a motion.
I can read that out, Mayor McEwen.
Sure,
So the
please.
recommendation is that council receive the housing needs report dated November 2021 for information, and that council directs staff to forward the Village of Anmore Housing Needs Assessment Report to the Union of BC, British Columbia municipalities, Metro Vancouver Regional District, and the Province of British Columbia, as well as post the report publicly on the village's website.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you all.
Great to see you.
Here.
Great to see, yes, great to see you. Take care. You're probably not going to hang around, or we'll just give you a minute just to.
What does the mayor say when you're going? You did that already once. You have to do it twice.
Maybe we'll just, while we're cleaning up, Mr. Boyd, do you want to talk about 11C, the GIS trail map, a memo dated November 10th, 2021?
Sure. I think there's going to be a few Ms. Elric, but I can give you a little brief outline.
Oh, sorry, it did say Miss Elric, sorry.
I can do it if you want me.
Whatever, I'm easy.
Okay. Yeah, so this is in reference to what came out of the Parks Committee, looking to update some of the information regarding the GIS website and the mapping data that we have currently, and trying to give some more exposure to the trails within Anmore. So it was kind of asked if the existing mapping system could facilitate it, and we've kind of done some analysis, and the answer is yes, it can be facilitated, and we can integrate some the trail mapping and kind of give it some more exposure here for Anmore. So.
Good, okay, well, we have a motion, and then we'll get some.
Ms. Elric's looking.
Oh,
I
go
do
ahead.
have a recommendation,
Sure.
should council wish to consider funding of this initiative, that council approve the budget not to exceed $7,000 plus GST to create the GIS trail network layers and content for the village website to be funded from the COVID-19 Restart Grant.
Someone to move that? Move second. I'll open up for any discussion. Councillor Trowbridge, do you want to quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. It's I think, a real positive initiative, and one that we've been working on the Parks Committee and trying to facilitate those trail connections. So this is going to have value for usage today, but it also has value for planning tomorrow. So I think we're very appreciative that Chris found a cheap way to do it, because we were pretty stuck. We were up against a wall. We knew what we wanted to do, but we couldn't afford it, so appreciate
And
it.
this will also enable, with our GS, to exactly determine what is our property, what isn't our property, and
Yeah.
that in a moment's notice and stuff like that, because there's a lot of gray area out there as it is right now in regards to right-of-ways and that, so. Good, okay, so we've got to move this, any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 11D, 2022 council calendar and council appointments. Report dated December 3rd, 2021 from Ms. Elrick, Manager of Corporate Services attached. The only thing that I would like to change on that is the January meeting, January the 18th, we'll change that to January the 11th, if that's all right. Otherwise, the report is as stands.
Thank you. So the council calendar is in line with the calendars from previous years, having 2 meetings per month with the exception of January due to the Christmas closure, and no meetings scheduled for August. An exception to this year, of course, the election in 2022 will be held on October 15th. So the inaugural meeting is proposed to be scheduled for November 1st of 2022. As well, the acting mayor schedule for 2022, the recommendation is that it remain the same, as well as the appointments for the Sassenat Volunteer Fire Department. So I do have a recommendation, and should council wish to make any changes, they can also make
Please.
amendments. So the recommendation would be that council approve the 2022 council calendar as attached to the report dated December 3rd, 2022 from the Manager of Corporate Services, with the change of the January meeting to be January 11th, and that council approve the following acting mayor schedule for 2022, which would be the November, December, January, Councillor Creer, February, March, April, Councillor Laidler, May, June, July, Councillor Trowbridge, August, September, October, Councillor Weberink, and that council appoint Mayor John McEwen, Councillor Kim Trowbridge, and Councillor Paul Weberink as trustees to the Sassenat Volunteer Fire Department for 2022.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Okay, perfect. Items from 12 items from Committee of the Whole, Committees and Commissions. 12A Environment Committee, October 12, 21, at the October 21st, 2021 Environment Committee meeting. The following recommendation was made to Council. Ms. Elrick.
Thank you. So I do have a recommendation from the Environment Committee related to the tree management bylaw, and this was brought forward by the Environment Committee and then sent back to them by council for their review. So I can read the recommendation out.
Sure.
And I do have a copy of the bylaw in front of all members of council, and Mr. Boyd is available to answer any questions, should council wish to provide any further direction to have staff review the bylaw or bring back any further. Would you like me to start with the recommendation then?
Please.
The recommendation would be that council endorse the Environment Committee to recommend staff review items identified within the tree management bylaw and prepare a report for council consideration regarding defining tree better and considering naming the species, adding specifics to the bylaw tree definition, incorporate climate change considerations in the replanting guidelines in detail, consider clearer language than may to consider the word shall. Administrator should be more specific, implying somebody singular or one person, perhaps unqualified, can make decisions. Everything should be signed off by a professional QEP, include specifics for significant trees and wildlife. Trees have a policy that applies tree bylaw to municipal land. Clarify who follows up as per terms of the bylaw on the permit, and what is the reporting, and the bylaw proofread and tightening up, and replacing trees 1 month after cutting a tree down is not enough time in the case of a development. Consider 3 months after occupancy to replant is more reasonable, And I will add that there is one note that the Environment Committee was asking how many fines have been collected. And upon checking, staff can report back that there have been no fines, but that the bylaw officer does take measures to ensure compliance as a first measure rather than fining.
Good, good.
So that would be the recommendation from the.
So I get someone to move that? Seconded? Any discussion? Councilor Rubber?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I think it's the right recommendation to send it back to staff, because, I mean, committees, we're unicorns, and we have these ideas, and it's not always, we don't always understand bylaw language, and I know there's probably a lot of just clarity here, why the word administrator is used. I know there's a reason, we just want to know what the reason is. So I think it's prudent that staff review this and come back with a staff report. Is there any questions from council or staff about anything? I think there's a lot more detail in the recording of the meeting, you know, particularly with item number 1, define tree better. I know there was a lot of discussion around that, like does a cherry tree count, stuff like that. And I know one of the members came up with a really good recommendation about considering climate change considerations. If you're going to replant, maybe there should be a recommendation like not hemlocks. I mean, I know we try to encourage native species, but there are some native species that are probably going to fail in the next 10 or 20 years as we dry out or get wetter. I don't know.
Or get into the heat dome.
Or into the heat dome. So I thought that was a very good recommendation.
Palm trees.
Palm trees, yeah, pretty soon. So that's all I have to say. So if there were any questions, or pretty self-explanatory.
I suppose just through the chair here, if I do need clarifications, is it okay if I talk to you directly?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for your work on the Environment Committee. Okay, we're on to, I guess, the mayor's report. Okay. Got a few things here. We sent out a call for volunteers for the APC and Finance Committee. Deadline is 4 p.m. on December the 31st. You know, the APC, Advisory Planning Commission, depending on what happens in regards to any development proposals come forward, they spend a considerable amount of time debating them and discussing them. So I'm really hoping that we get a good turnout of people that want to be on the APC. I think it can handle, Ms. Ulrich, is it 7 people? Yeah. So there's that, and there's the Finance Committee. There's an opening on the Finance Committee. So just want to remind everybody about that. Got another bit of good news. We've got issued on November the 19th. I got our local ombudsman report, which is from July 1st to September 30 from the village. Nothing whatsoever. There was 1 inquiry, no investigation even warranted, and we have 0 complaints, 0 inquiries. So really good news for the ombudsman. So that's good news. I should pass that on to you. And then this last week, I met with a local resident, had a great conversation. He informed me about a new association that is being created, the Anmore Residents Association, and they were incorporated in September 1st. Looking forward to working with them, finding out more about the organization. He was going to get back in contact with me, so yeah, looking forward to that. I also then wanted to talk about the Light Up Spirit Park. It was a great event. And we did it in conjunction with Miss Georgia Lyons for the 2nd year. She took on the role of initiating the Candy Cake Lane along Ravenswood Drive, and with all the support going to Eagle Ridge Hospital. So it was really well attended. Weather was perfect. We had about 200 people here, and I just, again, wanted to thank some local people. Former Mayor Mike Clay was here serving hot chocolate, which was quite surprising. I guess he did it the previous year and enjoyed it so much. Same with Minister of Finance, Selena Robinson, and her husband, Dan. Current Councillor Port Moody, Councillor Dan Dilworth was up here as well. So it was really well attended. We had a food truck. It was so great. There were so many people, so many kids, and as Mr. Birch said, it was really good seeing and being able to get out and talk to a lot of people that I know in the community and hear about, a lot of buzz about when's the new community hub coming. So it was able to tell, where we're at with that stage, and hopefully something in the coming weeks. But it was a really, really good, really great event, and I thank staff and Sabina Perrin for organizing it, and your committee as well, Ms. Councillor Cryer. It was great. It was really, really people were very positive, and the weather cooperated. I also was told to say that this Sunday is the last kids bingo of the year from 6 till 8 p.m. These are fairly well attended. So believe it or not, there's a full house in here of people wanting to play bingo, and it's actually really great. I also wanted to, I have a bit of sad news, and that is the passing of Dr. Mary Ann Cooper at the age of 107. She passed away on Sunday, November the 28th. She was very strong heritage advocate in Port Moody, and had a strong love for Anmore. And I can tell you, these recent IOCO days, I spent some time sitting with her down in IOCO days, and she was very alert and wasn't shy about saying how, we need to rebuild this IOCO town site at some point. And I had to remind her that it wasn't in Anmore, it was in Port Moody. But I think what was really special is this council and 3 members of council, Councillor Weberink, Councillor Trowbridge, and myself got a call last year at her birthday in November asking if we could make her day very special. And we all pulled a car out of our garage that we had winterized and went down, and there's pictures of all 3 of us with her. And it was a really, really special event, and I'm certainly glad that I was part of it. It was really nice, and she was very happy in that. And she promised that when I was talking to IOCO Days, she said at my next birthday, she actually wanted to go for a cruise in each one of the cars. So I yeah. Anyway, a real loss. And I know there's a film out right now, I think, in Port Moody with her life and that. So let me make sure I've just got all that. That's it for the mayor's report. So councillor's report.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor McEwen. Thanks, Councillor Weberink. A couple of things. At the last meeting, I mentioned Treasures of Christmas, Crossroads Hospice fundraiser. I checked in with them today, and they raised over $55,000 in a 1-hour virtual event. They were very pleased. And it was very well done. They did a really nice production of it. So it was fun to watch. I don't know if anyone else had an opportunity to see it, but they did a very, very good job. Also want to mention further to what Mayor McEwen said about Light Spirit Park, we raised $360, which was fabulous. So that will go to Eagle Ridge Hospital Foundation, and part of it also to SHARE, Family and Community Services. Eagle Ridge Hospital Foundation.
I'll match that.
Thank you. Is that in the minutes? Councillor Trowbridge will match that donation.
And we should let Ms. Georgia know.
And we will let Georgia. And I did want to say a special thank you to Georgia for reaching out and doing Candy Cane Lane for the 2nd year in a row. I think it's become a new holiday tradition here in Anmore. I also laughed when you mentioned the kids were up until midnight. Every time a parent or a child would come up and want another hot cocoa with extra sprinkles and extra whipped cream, I'm like, if your parents say fine, I don't have to take you home. Have at her with all the sugar. So the kids really had a good time, and the park looked beautiful. Make sure you mention to staff how lovely the lights looked and the fire. We had a lot of really great help, and it was a lot of fun to see everyone. So I'm glad we did it. A couple of 100 people, that was great turnout. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to see everyone. So thanks to Ms. Perrin for reacting quickly. I know she was jumping for joy, but it was well worth it. That is it.
Any other? Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I also wanted to express my sadness about the passing of Mary Ann Cooper. The first time I met her, I went to an IOCO town site meeting where they were really getting active in saving the town site, and that was over 20 years ago. And I remember her standing up, and she spoke very eloquently, and I thought, wow, she really believes in this, and she just had so many good reasons to save it. And I remember thinking, God, she's got to be 85 years old. I don't know if she's going to live long enough to see it. Well, 20 years later, she's still going. And I remember speaking to her up here at an open house, and, you know, that's what she was still all about, was saving that town site. And I was honored to be invited to her birthday party last year with Mayor McEwen and Councillor Trowbridge, and my son drove one of Councillor Trowbridge's many classic cars. And the movie, I'm actually going to go to the movie on Saturday. I've got tickets. And if you look at the actual picture to advertise the movie, that's a picture of me in my car talking to her. Yeah, and I'm doing this, but I'm actually holding my mask, and it looks like I'm telling her off, and she's looking at me. And it's just a good picture, and they've been using it for everything. So I thought, well, my picture's there. I better go see the movie. But I'm looking forward to it. We certainly enjoyed Light Up Spirit Park. We had a party on my street, a block party. We do a lot of block parties. You know, get a fire in the street and have hot chocolate and lawn chairs. So we did that before we all walked up to the Light Up Spirit Park. And I actually haven't done the street yet. I've still got to walk down there. And that's about it, other than wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. We'll see you in January. We get a holiday.
Any other? No? Oh, Councillor Weber, or Councillor Trowbridge, sorry.
Close.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a safe Christmas, too. All the other stuff's been said, so I'll leave it at that.
I'll move on to the Chief Administrative Officer's report. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you very much, Mayor McEwen. Just a few things to note. Everybody, I think, and Ms. Martin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, have already received outstanding notice for their taxes, or they will be shortly. So for anybody who's got outstanding taxes or utilities, please do your best to make payment before the end of the year. We will be closing over Christmas as we typically do, so likely be closing mid-afternoon on the 24th this year and reopening on Tuesday, January the 4th. So if you need anything in between then, if it's an emergency, you can call our Public Works emergency line, which is on our website. And in relation to Public Works, I will definitely pass along all the kudos for the events and the lights. And I have some unfortunate news to share in that our operations superintendent, who leads all of our Public Works department and has been instrumental in making sure we have all of our lights up and everything running so smoothly in the village, will be leaving us. His last day is on December the 17th. So he's moving on to another community, and I'll be working with current staff to fill any gaps we have before we can recruit for a new operations superintendent. So I just wanted to take an opportunity. Unfortunately, Lance couldn't be here tonight, but just wanted to give a big thanks to him. He's been in this role for the last 2 years, been with the village for 13 years, and provided an excellent level of service, and is someone who really genuinely cares a lot for the community of Anmore, and has shown that every day in his work. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to Lance. And finally, I just wanted to mention that we had our open house Q&A for the Anmore South Financial Analysis last night via Zoom. We had about 40 people on the call, which included a few members of council and staff, of course, but it was a great turnout, lots of great questions, and we are working to collate all that information, and we'll be sharing it in the coming days as well, so that everybody's got the information. That's it.
Good, thank you. A few things left. We've got some information items, different minutes from the committees, and then some general correspondence. We'll now open up to public question period. 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Yeah. Any public questions? Okay. Please, name and address.
I have to take the mask off. Jurgen Durkten, 1815 8 East Road. First of all, a question of clarification. I did submit some questions for Chris Boyd and his team yesterday regarding the Zoom meeting. My questions obviously weren't answered on Zoom, so will they be answered in writing for all to see? And furthermore, will everyone's questions be listed, and will everyone's questions be answered?
Thank you.
Through the chair, I can answer that, yes. So all questions we received either by email or live during the event last night will be noted and answers provided.
Okay, thank you.
And posted publicly.
Thank you.
The other question I have is a little bit more general, and it's regarding the three scenarios for the infrastructure analysis, and I'm addressing this to Mayor McEwen. Does the mayor consider scenario number 2 with the 1/4 acre lots to be a moderate scenario? And does the mayor consider his own position on the 3 scenarios to be a moderate one?
I haven't taken a position on any of them. They're for information, and that's what the exercise was for.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public question periods? Okay, I will wish everyone a happy holidays, and I'll move to adjourn. Second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.